DNA protein interactions. When you consider DNA protein interactions, one observes that proteins can bind to DNA non-specifically and can also bind to DNA very specifically. And those proteins that are able to bind to the DNA specifically and are able to regulate expression of genes or control certain, control certain functions with respect to genes, such proteins, of which many of the proteins have a typical DNA binding domain with a motif that has a helix turn helix motif. So in this session we are going to focus mainly on the helix turn helix motif. So let us look at the outcomes of the session. So helix turn helix motif is a common recognition super secondary structure. So when you have more than one secondary structure coming together to form a motif, then that is what is called as a super secondary structure. And these super secondary structures are used by regulatory proteins as well as by enzymes of both eukaryotes and prokaryotes. So you find such super secondary structures having the affinity to bind to nucleic acids, be it DNA or RNA, and these are part of proteins which are either regulatory or function as enzymes. The supersecondary structure comprises two alpha helix. So we are now looking at the helix turn helix motif. Comprises two alpha helix almost perpendicular to each other, and this is not generally a rule. In many cases it is completely perpendicular to each other. In many cases it need not be perpendicular, but mostly they are almost perpendicular. And these two alpha helices are connected by a very small turn, or it could be a long loop of amino acids. Now, of the two alpha helices, one of the alpha helix is able to bind to the DNA and actually read the nucleobases. So what is known as the base readout, okay? Or it can interact with conserved water molecules that are associated with the DNA and indirectly bind to the nucleobases. So that is something that has been observed with respect to the helix turn helix motif. An extension of helix turn helix motif is what is called as the winged HTH, and many a protein have the winged HTH motif to bind to the DNA, and they have a slightly more elaborate super secondary structure compared to the simple classical helix turn helix motif. Now let us just look at the helix turn helix motif. So this is an example of a helix turn helix present in TASPase-1 enzyme, TASPASE1. The TASPase-1 enzyme has within one of its domain the typical helix turn helix, and as you can see, you would have basically the entire helix turn helix being comprised 20 amino acids, about 20 amino acids. So if you look at S222 and P183, so between the residue of proline 183 and the residue serine 222, you have approximately 20 amino acids. So basically, one can say that the helix turn helix is made up of a set of 20 odd amino acids, of which some of the amino acids will form two alpha helices, and these two alpha helices, like mentioned earlier, may be perpendicular to each other or slightly perpendicular to each other, and the two helices are connected to each other through a small turn. If it is a small beta turn, then it is made up of only about 3 to 4 amino acid residues, but it can also be a longer loop with more than 4 amino acids forming the connect between the two alpha helices. So this is a classical helix turn helix motif. And interestingly, in the helix turn helix motif, one of the helices always acts as the recognition helix. When you say recognition helix, what does it mean? It means that the recognition helix has amino acids that can bind directly to the nucleobases of the DNA or can bind to the nucleobases through the water molecules. So one of the helices is the one that is able to actually interact with the specific DNA sequences or specific base pairs in the DNA. And the other helix that is there is actually a kind of support because it binds to the sugar phosphate backbone and holds on to the DNA. While the other helix is the one which is actually making the specific interaction with the DNA. So you can observe over here that, okay, another interesting point to note is that the helix turn helix motif is never present in isolation. Helix turn helix motif is always generally a part of an entire supersecondary structure which contains 3 to 6 alpha helices, sometimes more. Okay, and all these alpha helices basically, when they come together, they form a core, and that core is basically hydrophobic, and because it is hydrophobic, it enables the recognition helix to interact with the nucleobases which are present more within the DNA in a hydrophobic environment. We all know that within you would have the bases present in a more hydrophobic environment. So the interaction would be more conducive if you have a more hydrophobic environment created over here. Second important feature of the helix turn helix binding with the DNA is that the recognition helix always interacts with the nucleobases through the major groove. Okay, and the other helix which is present interacts with the sugar phosphate backbone of the DNA. So it is this which would once come more into the major groove and interact with these nucleobases over here. So this recognition helix will have amino acids that would and the amino acid residues will be such that they could complementarily bind to the nucleobases present in the major groove. And that interaction between the nucleobase and the amino acid residues in the recognition helix is quite specific. So you may not have a particular protein having a helix turn helix going and binding to any region of the DNA. It would go and bind only to specific sequences in the DNA. That is because the recognition helix would have amino acids that contribute to hydrophobicity, and they can in turn interact with the nucleobases. So we are looking therefore at a supersecondary structure made up of more than 2 alpha helices, and of which you would have, so if you have the smallest supersecondary structure containing helix turn helix, it is a 3 helix structure. So you can see 1 helix, 2 helix and 3 helix, and it is this helix and this helix which is acting as a helix turn helix, with this being the beta turn. Now let us look at certain families of proteins that have helix turn helix, and they bind to the DNA through the helix turn helix motif. So one of the families is that of the CRO and the repressor family. This is basically present in bacteriophages, and it is through these helix turn helix that the CRO and the repressor actually bind to the DNA. So both the CRO and the repressor that belong to one family are homodimers. So you can see this is one monomer and this is the second monomer, and they are always existing together with 2 of the helices present in both the monomers acting as a dimerization zone. So they will dimerize to form a dimer, and both the dimers have 5 helices. Of the 5 helices, the second and the third helix act as the HTH. So you can very well see over here that this is the recognition helix which is interacting with the major groove, and this other one is the perpendicular axis. So it is interacting with the sugar phosphate backbone, and so this is the supporting helix and this is the recognition helix, and the same you will find in the other monomer as well. So primarily most of these repressors bind to 2 half sides on the DNA. Okay, so the sequence that is present over here is the same as the sequence that is present over here. So both the monomers of the dimer are able to interact with only that specific sequence that is present at both the sides. So both the half sides are similar in sequence. Then one comes to the second family, which comprises transcription factors. In eukaryotes, for transcription to be initiated, there are several transcription factors that are required. Many of them are regulatory and many of them are actually needed to initiate transcription. So of that, one of the families is the homeodomain family, and these homeodomain family are either monomers or dimers. So they can exist as monomers or they can exist as dimers. And these homeodomain family have 4 helices. And of the 4 helices, the second helix is the recognition helix, and the third helix is the one that binds to the sugar phosphate backbone. So the reading over here also is through the recognition helix, and that too of the nucleobases that are present in the major groove. So it's always that the reading of the bases and the specific bases are through the major groove itself, whether you have this family or you have this family. The third family is the LAC1 repressor, and we all know that LAC1 repressor is the main regulatory protein of the LAC operon. So this LAC1 repressor is able to bind to 2 half sites, which is the operator region overlapping the promoter region. And when the LAC1 repressor is bound to the operator region, the LAC operon is switched off. So the LAC1 repressor is again a dimer. You can see that, oh, and in fact, many a times this is not just a dimer, it is a tetramer. So you can see this is one monomer, this is the second monomer, the third, the fourth. And in this monomer per se, you can see that there are, if you consider these two dimers, then you can see that this is the helix turn helix of one monomer and this is the helix turn helix of the other monomer. Now, interestingly, the monomer also has what is called as another helix, which is called as the hinge helix. So when you have the helix turn helix, of which the recognition helix interacts with the major groove, the hinge helix is actually interacting with the minor groove. And when the hinge helix binds to the minor groove, it actually creates a kink. So the axis of the helical axis over here changes orientation because of the formation of a kink due to the hinge helix. Now, this formation of the kink is basically stabilizing the interaction of the entire LAC1 repressor with the DNA. And the helix turn helix, the recognition helix, is able to interact better with the major groove, and therefore the interaction of the LAC repressor to the operator region is consolidated. And you can see the other monomer also has one of the helix, which is a recognition helix, binding over here. So you basically have one half site over here and the other half site over here, and these two half sites are actually separated by just 2 to 3 nucleotides. And at the minor groove region over here, it is the hinge helix that comes and forms a kink. Now let us go to another family, which is a tryptophan repressor. Again, the tryptophan repressor is very commonly found in prokaryotic systems, and it enables what is called as repression of the tryptophan operon. So it switches off the tryptophan operon when the tryptophan levels in the cell is very high. So when one looks at the tryptophan repressor, again, it is a homodimer, so made up of 2 monomers, and it has 6 helices, okay? And within the 6 helix, you have the 4th and the 5th helix acting as the helix turn helix. The other 4 helices are either dimerization interfaces and also can interact with the sugar phosphate backbone of the DNA per se. One other family that is present having the helix turn helix motif in the DNA binding domain is transcription factor 2b. Transcription factor 2b is an important transcription factor for initiation of transcription in eukaryotes, and the transcription factor 2b is able to not just bring in the RNA polymerase, but it is also able to bind to the region, promoter region, so that the initiation begins in such a way that the start point is open as a transcription bubble and you have the transcription going along. So the TF2B at its C-terminal domain has the helix turn helix motif, and this helix motif would bind through the major groove, while the N-terminal domain helix is able to bind to the minor groove. So that is how it functions. Again, look at the fact that it may be a single molecule with both the CTD and the NTD, with the CTD having the helix turn helix. So you can see this is the helix turn helix domain. Then you have another family, which is basically nucleases, and endonuclease we know are enzymes that can cut the DNA within at specific sequences or not specific as well, but the FOK1 is able to cut the DNA about 4 to 5 base pair away from the site that it is binding or it is interacting with the DNA. So it is basically a monomer, but it has two domains, D1 and D2, and both the D1 and the D2 have the helix turn helix motif. So you can see that this is one that has helix turn helix, and this is the second one which is the helix turn helix domain. So you have the recognition helix and you have the perpendicular supporting helix as well. Interestingly, what is observed is that the recognition helix or the helices of endonuclease fork1, although they interact through the major grooves, that is not the position of cutting. As mentioned earlier, it cuts only 4 to 5 base pairs away from the region that the recognition helix binds to. Now we go to winged helix turn helix, which is an extension of the classical helix turn helix motif. So in the winged helix turn helix, what is observed is that the super secondary structure is not made just of alpha helices, but it has both alpha helices and beta sheets. So it is basically a combination of alpha helices and beta sheets, and therefore it is called as an alpha beta fold. And a winged helix turn helix generally contains 3 alpha helices and 3 beta strands. So alpha helices are actually forming the core, okay, with 2 of the alpha helices forming the classical helix turn helix. And in this case, helix 2 and helix 3, and this helix 3 you can see is the recognition helix, okay, they act as the helix turn helix. So this is helix 3, helix 2, and this is helix 1. Now, of this, the helix 1, that is joined to the helix 2. So it joins to helix 2 by a beta strand 1. So there is a small beta strand 1 that is present that binds this 2. So this is the beta strand 1. This binds this alpha helix to this alpha helix. So you can see how helix 1 interacts with helix 2 through a beta sheet, and this is what is strand 1. Now, the helix 3 per se, okay, is again interacting with two antiparallel beta strands. So this is one beta strand and this is the second. You can see this is one beta strand looped with a second beta strand. Okay. Now, therefore, this is the S2 and this is the S3. Interestingly, S2, S3, S1, all the three coordinate with each other through hydrogen bonding to form a 3-strand beta sheet. Okay. And these three in turn interact with the helices. Okay. So therefore, there are 3 alpha helices and 3 beta strands. An extended loop. So this is the extended loop that is joining S2 and S3. Correct. And this is what is the winged portion of the winged helix turn helix. And interestingly, while the recognition helix is interacting with the DNA at the major groove, okay, interacting with the helix in the minor groove. Actually, this is something that is different from the classical helix turn helix. The winged region is actually interacting with bases in the major groove. So here you have the winged portion interacting with the major groove while the recognition helix is interacting with the nucleobases in the minor groove. So there can be 2 wings in a winged helix turn helix. So you may have 2 wings or you may have a single wing, okay, which can interact with the minor groove and the sugar phosphate backbone as well. Now, when you look at which are the families that have winged helix turn helix, well, there are several, but we are only going to take up 2. One is the interferon regulatory factor present in eukaryotes, and the other one is catabolite gene activator. So we know the CAP protein, which is associated with several operons, and you know that it carries out combinatorial gene control. CAP is the one that can bind to the CAP binding region of the DNA, and it is going to in the presence of cyclic AMP. So when cyclic AMP binds to CAP, CAP can bind to the DNA and it can recruit the RNA polymerase to carry out the transcription. So it's a kind of positive modulator or activator, but only in the presence of cyclic AMP. So when you look at this, you can again see that it has a recognition helix and a supporting helix, but you can see that the structure has the beta sheets as well as another helix present. So you have a more elaborate supersecondary structure. Same is the case over here. You have the 3 alpha helices connected to 3 beta sheets present over here. So therefore, these are the winged helix-turn helix associated families, protein families. Yeah, so this is basically the recognition helix. These are basically the beta pleated sheets. So let us conclude. Many regulatory proteins and enzymes use the helix-turn helix motif to bind to the DNA majorly through the major groove. The beta turn may be about just 4 amino acids or a loop with several amino acids. Some proteins use an extended version of the same motif, which has both alpha helices and beta pleated sheets. So we are talking about the winged helix-turn helix with specific loops called wings. These motifs are the winged helix-turn helix. There are several families of proteins that have the helix-turn helix motif, enabling binding to specific sequences in the DNA. The helices generally form the core of the domain or the protein, with 2 out of the many helices being the HTH. Therefore, one of the several ways by which proteins are able to bind to specific DNA sequences is through the supersecondary structure helix-turn helix, present in a domain containing several combinations of helices and beta sheets. Thank you.